Techies can be a little blunt, a little abrasive, a little judgmental, and I have this resting jerk face that just looks grumpy and like I don't care about you. What do techies do when they don't know the answer? They'll start talking about something, and it makes them think of something else, and it makes them think of something else, and by the time you know it, they're just gone. We're going to talk about presenting tech in a, hopefully, in a better way. From my perspective, I am a business guy. I love all things business process. My education is business. My passion, my entertainment is business. Everything is business. I quite literally, not literally, but I fell into IT about 12 years ago. It was a meeting and someone said, hey, we've got a job opening and would you be interested? And I applied and got it. And so I just like no technology training or experience or anything. Now, I remember very well the first week on the job in IT. And I came home to my wife and I was like, I'm in these meetings and I understand maybe 40 to 50% of the actual words that are coming out of their mouths. Like I have no clue what they're saying. And I would sit there on my laptop and new tab, define this, and I'm constantly trying to understand while I'm listening to them and trying to connect the acronym or the initialism that I just, sorry, that triggered Siri for some reason, that I was just looking up, and it took months and months and months to finally start to understand the lingo and how technical people speak. So the whole purpose of this is over 12 years, and I've given thousands of presentations, and I've been the recipient or an audience member of thousands more presentations, technical presentations. And so these were just 10 tips that I wanted to share that hopefully can help us all, not just you, but me as well, give a little bit better technical presentations. So, but what is the problem that often, not always, but often results from giving technical presentations to non-technical people? What is the end result or the emotions that are felt by those non-technical people? Frustration, confusion.
So what?
What's that? So what? What does that have to do with anything? Pure misunderstanding. Just, I'm talking here, you're talking there. We have no clue. I'm not on the same wavelength at all. And we see that often, and I have not seen that improve in 12 years in IT, honestly. Like, those problems still happen. Last week, we had a couple of those. Myself was one of them, that I had completely missed the mark of what the audience needed and who they were and what they understood. And I gave like a 40-minute presentation, and then they're like, I don't understand this thing, which was foundational to what I should have started with in the first place. So that is the problem. What is a presentation? Go. What's a presentation? Break it down, more simple. Go.
A teaching moment?
Teaching moment? What about just disseminating information to an audience? So it doesn't have to be this is a formal presentation setting. I'm the presenter, I'm standing here, I've got slides, I'm clicking through your audience, I'm conveying some, hopefully, knowledge, some information or raw data or wisdom even, but it's just sharing information. And so think of a meeting that you're jumping into a Teams meeting or you're having a team meeting. Oftentimes there are presentation, or think of them as mini presentations within a meeting. It's someone conveying information to someone else. So just the dissemination of information. So my guess is that you give a lot more presentations than you realize. This, again, it doesn't have to be like this, but if you're giving a product demo, or you are part of the business and you're giving a requirements analysis presentation in a meeting, like those are presentations. And so these principles apply not just in formal presentation settings like this, but in meetings as you're conveying information, technical information. Tip number 1 starts right here. So we've got a guy in a pit and he is stuck. And you, the presenter, are walking around and you see this pit and you look down into that pit. You say things like, oh, I'm really sorry that you're in that pit. That really bites. You must be hungry. You must be scared. I wish I could help you. Best of luck. Prayers are with you and thoughts. And hey, you got this. Like, way to go. You've got this. Good luck. What is that? That's sympathizing with that person. Okay? You're at the top. You're looking down at this scenario, at this perspective, and you're just talking to him. As opposed to, what's this?
Empathizing.
You're empathizing. You're getting in the pit with him. I feel you. I am here with you. I feel your pain. I understand because I'm experiencing it with you. That's empathy, and that's the power that comes from empathy. And when we tech people are speaking and presenting to non-technical people, that is critical. Critical. Understanding who they are, understanding, I had to plug this in. These were all AI generated. And this was man stuck in a pit, and he's like literally like embedded into the pit. And I thought, my kids laughed their heads off on that. Anyway, so tip number 1 is your audience. Getting back to understanding put yourself in their shoes. Some of the best presenters who were developers, like hardcore senior developers, were excellent at understanding who that audience is. So number 1, who are they? What are their goals, their fears, their needs, their dreams, their pain points, anything like that? And what is their big picture? Not my big picture, not what I think from a technology perspective, but what is their big picture? Why are they interacting with you? Why are they engaging with you? What is in it for them? What are they wanting to get out of that? So tip number 1 is just understanding who they are, empathizing with them as opposed to just the sympathy. I personally, and we as techies, often go with that. It's kind of that good, better, best, right? Good is sympathizing. Like you're expressing that, hey, I feel you, that must be really frustrating. But the empathy is that next level. That's the best option when you're trying to understand who your audience actually is. He was really, really good at this, and he would even pause me. I was a product manager at the time, and he would pause me and say, hold on, Braden, like we've got to understand, like from their perspective, what is their big picture? And sometimes we would go in with a prepared presentation or a product demo or whatever, and it would veer completely off course for good because he understood this. He'd ask the question like, hold on, wait, you're saying you want this, but in actuality, are you really wanting this? And they're like, oh yeah, duh, that's what I need. Understanding their big picture and who they are, that's what can lead towards that. Yeah, please. Okay, yeah.
I feel like that's really hard because what if the person at Pitt was splunking and wanted some serene time and you kind of ruined that when you came by, by sitting up. And so sometimes, like I've been in meetings where we're talking about what we think someone else wants instead of asking them.
Okay, so what do?
Do we ask them?
That's it. It's that communication. And I think oftentimes I'm so stereotyping here, and I acknowledge that. But techies, they like to just go heads down and get the stuff done, and just I'm going to figure it out. I'm just going to plow through. When sometimes a simple conversation, ping them in Teams or set up a quick meeting. You don't have to go overkill. Can solve a ton of problems.
So how do you do that with a big audience like this?
You
know what I mean?
How
can you empathize if you can't?
So how have I already empathized with you? I'm using my mind tricks on you. Like this. How have I empathized with you? Like in the last 15 minutes?
It was in your introduction.
Okay, how?
That you started as a non-technical person, but as a business person.
Okay.
Became
I feel
a
you.
Person,
I'm in that pit with you.
and then you've been able to look both ways.
Okay. How so?
By having played both sides of
Okay, yeah. So I communicated that empathy with you. And how many of you are actual tech people? You know how to code? So maybe.
Is that really the definition we're going
I know, yeah. That is my definition of the techies. They are the coders. They are the developers. Yeah. So some, maybe 50%, 60, 70%. But what else did I do to empathize with you before?
You sat in the chair and talked with us.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. That was good. I'm going to add that to my slides. Yeah, I know you. I know probably over half of you, and so we've got some history, and I've already talked with multiples of you about projects and things that you're working on. And so there's that. It starts even before the presentation that you're doing your ground. We'll actually talk about this in just a second. Of doing that groundwork beforehand, of understanding who's in your audience. Not too long ago, we had a presentation, and there were multiple directors in there who are thinking big, grand picture. One in the department, who they are talking about big, grand things over multiple years, and we had this presentation prepared, and we went in, and we just dove way, leading to this, and we will get back to some of that. leading to this of extremely high-level detail when what was needed in that meeting at a director level, think strategic versus tactical, what was needed?
Very high level.
Very high level. Like this one was like extremely low detail, high level that was needed, and we were probably right here. And it was frustrating, it was confusing, we were not talking apples to apples at all. And so tip number 2, be aware of this. Notice here, it's not stay over there, stay over here, stay in the middle. There's no indication. It's just be aware and think about what level of detail do I need to be presenting here. Okay? So, how do you understand what level of detail you need to be presenting? You understand the audience. You go back to tip number 1 of understanding the audience and figure out how much they understand. This is one that I really, really struggle with, and I ask questions like, well, you give me some questions. What would you ask the audience to understand the level of detail that they understand? Where you need to be on the spectrum. What would you ask?
Have you ever had experience?
Have you ever had experience with blank? Fill in the blank.
I'd say how much time do you have?
Oh, yeah.
Because what I say in the elevator between floors is a lot different than what I might say if you say, yeah, we'll give you an hour.
Seriously, I've got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I got to keep it way over here.
Yeah.
Or maybe all they're interested in is right here, and you've got 10 minutes to somehow figure out how you're going to convey that much detail in 10 minutes. So yeah, time is a great one. Yeah, go ahead.
Tell me what you understand.
Tell me what you understand. Give me a baseline. Think of a baseline to go off of how much do you already understand of this. Give them some perspective. And then, and even ask them, like, just how much detail do you want?
And then be able to adjust.
And then absolutely, yeah, your knowledge needs to be pretty broad. But, so I've been a product manager, program manager, kind of that business liaison side. My understanding is over here. I don't understand the deep technical stuff, and that's okay. That's by design. That's my role. I don't need to. So the what is different than the how. I should have another slide for this. I need to add that to my list. So the what they're trying to accomplish is very, very, very different than trying to explain the how they're going to accomplish the what. Number 3, same spectrum, the pace. Where do techies usually go? Faster, faster, go, go, go. And they're using that jargon and those acronyms and those initialisms so fast that oftentimes we miss that mark with the audience. Where should we be on the spectrum?
Depends on the audience.
Trick question. Yes, it totally depends. It totally depends. If you're giving a tech presentation to tech people, by all means, if they're absorbing everything you're saying, go fast. But you've got to make sure that it's an okay speed. And so I speak quickly, and I just do. And so I will sometimes pause and just say, okay, hold on, let's take a breather. Am I going too fast? And ask them those questions. It's all about connecting with your audience, of asking them to give you that live feedback to get that pace correct. Make sense? Okay. All right. I've got these 3 beautiful AI-generated pillars of knowledge. I want to share something. I'm passionate about it. I know it. I know it's going to help them. I go and I convey that in a perfect way, perfect pace, perfect everything. I convey that to the audience, but something is missing. What's wrong with the foundation? It's not there. It's crumbling. It's partial. It's not set. It's not prepared for the knowledge that I was giving to them. So oftentimes we assume when we're conveying technical information that they know a lot more than they actually do. Case in point with this, we recently gave a Power Platform for Kids summer series thing that was a lot of fun. We did this virtually, and the kids would come and join us, and we would teach the bare bones basic concepts of what is data, like what's a database, rows and columns and items, and what is an app on top of data, and what is automation when you're working with that data. So bare bones basic things, and the feedback that we got was what? We adults need this too. Like, this isn't just for the kids. You thought it was for the kids, but we adults need it too. And oftentimes we techies go in assuming that they're ready for this, but that foundation is not set yet. It's not in place well enough, stable enough to give them that knowledge. So what can we do to prevent this going into a meeting? What can we do?
Send them information beforehand.
Send them information beforehand. That's a great one. In what format would you say?
Depends on the audience too.
Depends on the audience. Yeah, whatever that is. Sometimes it's a recorded video. Sometimes it's just some text, an email, Teams conversation, something. Or, go ahead.
Do a quick survey, right?
Okay, yeah, quick survey. And that can be super informal. You don't need to create a survey in forms or something. You just, hey, just help me understand, again, that level of detail, that knowledge, who your audience is, what they understand. Help me understand where you are with this. One thing that I have found helpful in this area is asking or having a pre-meeting, if you need to, just to prepare you for the big meeting. And that can usually be smaller with a smaller group of people, where you're explaining the foundation, how this fits in to the overall big picture. Yes?
The other tactic, not that's perfect, but role-playing with others, asking them to say, hey, put yourself in the shoes.
Interesting.
Or someone who doesn't have any context.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but I think that could be super effective. Yeah. One thing that I have found surprisingly successful is in the same presentation or meeting, starting off with a 2 minute, like 2 minutes, 3, maybe 5 minutes, starting off and just laying the foundation. And communicate, be open, be transparent. I'm just making sure that we're all on the same page. You can use that phrase, making sure we're all on the same page. Let me just lay the foundation really quick before we jump into the meat. And that's it. And then you just give a very high level, here's the foundation, here's why we're here in this presentation. What's the purpose of this presentation? And then you jump in. That can be the least impactful or time-consuming method. But if you think a pre-meeting or a pre-email or a pre-whatever is necessary, by all means do that. Like, again, it just depends on the audience. Okay, a whole bunch of AI-generated technical metaphors. Why are metaphors powerful? Especially in the tech space.
People can get whatever they need at their level from a metaphor.
Okay. I love that. That's a great description of it. That if I'm trying to explain cybersecurity, I have no idea what you're talking about. Do I understand what a shield does? Of course I understand what a shield does. It protects me. It protects my vital organs. Okay, that's the same thing for your digital life. Here's how. So even like 2 sentences and little hack here, use ChatGPT. Just tell it, generate 5 excellent, engaging, whatever, metaphors for I'm teaching them whatever. Like if you're talking about data mining or you're talking about a server or whatever it is, and it will give you excellent examples. And so use metaphors to connect, to relate. So again, it's about that audience, who they are, what their current level of understanding is, connect it with them via these metaphors and deliver it. Now,
modern day parable.
Modern day parable, seriously, that is what it is. Are metaphors memorable? Right. Extremely metaphor. There's actually like synapses that go on in our minds when we picture something visually in our minds, and we're connecting a concept, especially a new concept, with something that we're already familiar with. It is really, really powerful to embed that in our minds. So yeah, awesome. Okay, I think pace. See, I'm keeping track of pace. We are great with pace. Okay, this is a tricky one. Techies can be a little blunt, a little abrasive, a little judgmental, and I know I am ironically being judgmental as I'm talking about how techies can often speak. But this is the soft stuff. These are the soft skills that are often lacking when I see technical presentations given. So, make eye contact. Super simple. I see them on their computers, like sometimes even typing, and they're talking and trying to convey, and what does that do with an audience? They're gone. They're so gone, especially if they're trying to understand something complex that's mentally straining for them. They're just gone. Lean in. Like, you don't notice it often, but how do techies sit? Just like slouched and like, and great for some settings, maybe amongst our team stand up or something. But if you're leaning in, what message does that send you? Like right now, I'm actually kind of leaning forward. What message does that send you?
I'm interested.
I'm interested. What?
Engaged.
I'm engaged. I care. Again, that empathy side. I actually care about you and your interests. I'm not just here to whatever. Like that leaning in. Whoops. Leaning in is important. I don't know why, but oftentimes, especially in Teams meetings online, I see technical people just look perplexed is the nice way to say it, but sometimes like grumpy or like if I were speaking how my face looks, it's like, why the heck would you ask that question? That is the stupidest question I've ever heard in my life. And that the facial reaction, like what are they actually doing?
Is that why you never turn your camera on?
Camera off, camera off, camera off. What are they actually doing, the tech people doing when they have that face?
Thinking through the question.
They are, and I've asked them, I've talked to them before, and I've given feedback to some engineers who report to me that okay, what's going on? Like and I took a screenshot, like, hey, this is how you look. What's going on in your head? Oh, I was thinking through it, I was problem solving, and I have this resting jerk face that just looks grumpy and like I don't care about you. And so just a soft smile, and don't be fake and plaster this weird smile on your face, but just be aware of that look that you can just sit there with. So showing interest and empathy. What are ways to show interest and empathy? Either online, virtual presentation, or in person?
Trying to engage conversationally, right? Asking questions.
Yeah.
Even if they seem obvious.
Yeah.
Engage that way.
Yep. Questions are a really powerful way to make that connection, to connect with minds. It's a psychology term with a mental gap. We don't like, as humans, we don't like mental gaps. Like, we like to know things about things. And so if you ask a question, it's like, oh, where's that mental gap? I don't know the answer to that. I need to fill that. I'm going to engage mentally with you, the presenter. So really, really powerful way. What else? How do we show, demonstrate? And I would, along those lines, I would say this comes very, very naturally when you have that empathy. When you've built that empathy and invested in that empathy, that comes naturally. They feel it. Like, even if you can't define it, they feel that you are there and are interested and connected.
Just having very deliberate body language too, right? If you're trying to be interested, engaged, you can't be up there just you're making eye contact, you're smiling,
Shoulder slouch,
you gotta be deliberate in your interactions with
I love it. I would add to that deliberate and natural. Like, that is one thing. Like, I do side presentation stuff, and the thing that I teach that everything revolves around is being natural and authentic and genuine. Like, you do. So what you're not seeing with any of this is speak this many words per minute, move your hands like this, pace the floor, like just be natural, be yourself, and present in a way that is yourself, your authentic, natural self. So yeah, I love that. Go ahead.
Sorry, that brought up a thought. I noticed a while back in Teams meetings, people's cameras are all over the place.
All over, yeah.
And so I started watching my own and realized that at times, like, most of them, I'm down in a corner and I'm not all the way in. So when I really want to be engaging, I make sure that I'm in the middle of my camera.
Awesome.
You can see my head, and that, to me, that makes it.
The rule of thirds, have you heard that with like photography and stuff? You split a thing into that, like tic-tac-toe, and these are the points. These lines are where focus goes. So if you can put your eyes right there on that top third line, that's the ideal location, physical setting for a thing. So awesome. Really quick, validating phrases. These are excellent and help convey that empathy, help show that empathy. That makes sense. I totally get that. Ooh, great idea. Even if you had the idea first, even if it was your idea and you've been thinking it the whole time, and then they finally say it after you've led them to that idea, give them the credit, just let it happen and acknowledge it as a great idea. Yeah, that would be frustrating. Again, that empathy. I'd feel the same way, that empathy. It all goes back to those validation that they need to feel. Okay, tip number 7, questions to learn. You guys have already brought this up. These are a couple that I really, really like and have used a lot. There are 3 that I picked. Does that make sense? I'm all about transparency and being open with the communication. Does this make sense? Now, that is a closed-ended question. Is that how you open-ended? Closed-ended. Yeah, closed question. So they can respond with yes or no. So what behooves you when you ask that? What do you need to do if it's just, that makes sense. What's that?
Maybe a follow-up question afterwards.
Okay. And maybe get more specific with that too. Does this make sense in this context? Or even, what do you understand of this? I do this all the time, especially if I'm seeing glazed over faces. confused looks. I'm gathering live feedback from you right now. Like I'm constantly like, okay, what is the feedback that I am receiving live as I'm giving a presentation? Pay attention to that. And if you need to, use this. Let's pause for just a second while we digest. You can use that word, like digesting. That's kind of a metaphor. It is a metaphor of how we're processing stuff. Did that last portion click? Should I explain it again a little higher level? Do I need to move over to that side of the spectrum in the level of detail? Yes or no? And then it gives them some honest, genuine time to think through, am I understanding this? Is it clicking? Maybe they don't even realize that it's not clicking. Like if you think of the pillars and the foundation, maybe they are understanding the pillars, but they have no clue how it's connecting to the foundation. And so this gives them a chance, your audience, to, okay, does this make sense? Does it or not? I don't feel judged by you, the presenter, so I can tell you no. Or I can tell you, you know what, I'm getting most of it, but this little portion I didn't quite get, can you explain that again? That's the kind of, you're building a relationship, honestly. Like, even if it's a one-time thing, you'll never, ever present to that person again. In that moment, you are building a relationship with that person. And that's what this can do, is facilitate that relationship. And then can you see how? Someone I think said that verbatim. Can you see how X, Y, or Z? And then tip number 8, what do you do if you don't know the answer? And this is a pet peeve of mine. What do techies do when they don't know the answer to a question?
Jargon.
What?
More jargon.
More jargon?
Confuse it.
They can't not know. You're brilliant. Techies are brilliant. Like, my goodness, the way their minds think is just beyond me. It's incredible. And I love watching them think and explaining how they're thinking. But holy smokes, I have, in 12 years of being in IT, maybe a handful of times have I heard a techie acknowledge or admit that he doesn't know the answer to a question. That's the whole thing. Don't hedge, don't give a political answer, don't hem and haw, just, you know what, I have no idea. That's a great question. Let me go find out and I'll get back to you later. Let me take that offline, a techie term, let me take it offline and go find out, and I will get back to you in a follow-up meeting, in a Teams chat, in an email, in a whatever, in the hall, but follow up, okay? So using this word, the curious, I'm curious, like that's a knowledge gap that I have. I want to go fill that knowledge gap. Let me go figure it out and I'll get back to you. So that is it. There's nothing more to say about this other than if you don't know the answer, say it. Just tell them, because there's ethos, credibility as a presenter, as a person. We naturally think if we don't know the answer, we naturally feel that what happens with our credibility, our ethos? It drops. Yes. But what happens when you say this? In actuality, what's happening to your ethos? Holy smokes, they're like, okay, I trust you more. I believe you more. You are more credible in my view because you're admitting that you don't know the answer to that. So it does the reverse of what is natural, like the natural man of what we would tend to feel in a presentation setting, or really in any setting. Okay, what are these?
Acronyms.
Acronyms, what else? Do you know the difference between acronyms and initialisms?
Acronym.
An initialism is DNS, AI, CPU, NFC. An acronym is where you say the word, RAM. OLED, do you say that?
Yeah.
WAN. So if you're saying the word, that's an acronym. If you're saying the letters, that's an initialism. So I learned that relatively recently. What's that? What'd you say?
You're an official techie now.
How many of you understand conceptually what half of these are? More than half. Raise your hand, more than half. Okay, more than 75%? 90%? Holy cow. Well, you're more technical than you gave yourself credit for. 90%, 95%, way, way up there. Okay, so as a non-technical person, I'm going to be very vulnerable. I had no idea what a server was when I first started in tech. Like, no clue. I was embarrassed in a meeting once. This was months in. I had a laptop, and I mentioned something about spilling a drink on the laptop, and I can just replace that. I didn't understand that underneath the keys is everything that's happening in a laptop. Just like a desktop where you got a keyboard and you go get a $5 keyboard and just replace it if you get crumbs or drinking it. It's like, oh, that's right. There's actually processing stuff that's happening. Like, clueless. So what is the point here? What is the tip? Be aware. Be aware of the acronyms and the initialisms and the technical jargon that you're using. And there's nothing more to be said about that. Just be aware and make sure they understand what you're saying. Because I guarantee you and we are using these more often than we realize. Because amongst us, how often do we use technical jargon? Constantly. Yeah.
One thing I've always tried to do is I write the name of what it is and then put parentheses and the...
Ooh, in like an email written form? Yeah,
Exactly.
love that.
So always say it one time, what it really is, and then put the acronym or the...
Do you have to do that every single time?
No, just the first time.
The first time, yep. So on the side for 20 years, I've been a federal grant reviewer where we have really, really stringent requirements of what we have to include and all this stuff. And so I'd write up huge proposals to defend these grants. And the requirement, they will send them back every single time if I use an acronym or initialism and I do not define it one time and only one time. You don't need to do it every single time. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of mental energy. But do it the first time. Don't assume, again, getting back to that foundation, don't assume that they know what the acronym means or the initialism or whatever. Okay? So yeah, excellent idea. And maybe verbally even, if you're in a presentation setting, you say it, this is what it means, and then just keep going and use it.
Even to management that you think is somewhat technical.
Yeah.
They sometimes don't know what what does this stand for?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And where I've seen the most faux pas with all of this, maybe not the most, not quite, but a lot, is with upper level management. When they're presenting upline, it's almost I feel like I need to convey that I'm really smart, and I need to, like, I don't know if it's pride or something, where they just blow all this away and they just get super detailed and super fast and tons of technical jargon, and you're just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. When oftentimes management doesn't come from, sometimes they do. Sometimes, like, was a SharePoint engineer for a bajillion years, and I can talk tech with him constantly with SharePoint and that whole space. But most of them don't, and so you've got to be very aware, especially upline. I need to add that to my list too. Yes, please.
You've got another danger in that list too, is that you've got some terms in there like DevOps.
Okay.
And in some organizations, DevOps means one thing, in other organizations it means completely something else.
Yes, holy smokes. These can be really loaded terms. That is a great point. What else is loaded in here? I mean, some of them, these might be more specific, but there are very, very loaded terms. Do we, in our organization, use acronyms?
Never.
Oh my goodness. We created the acronym finder way back when in SharePoint on-prem, and at the time there were 642, I believe, 43, 41, 641 actively used, non-archived, actively used acronyms in the organization. So any acronym, any initialism, don't assume, and define it, and recognize whether it's one of those loaded acronyms that could mean anything depending on your situation. Yeah, great point. Thank you. Okay, tip number 10, grounded to the goal. So here's my presentation. Here's the length of it. So 40 whatever minutes ago, 35 minutes ago, we were right there. We're almost here. The goal of the presentation, my goal was to convey some knowledge that hopefully helps as we're presenting as technical people. Okay, that is the goal. Now, what happens sometimes, and I would maybe say oftentimes, maybe 85, 90% of the time, we start off, we might be on track. For some reason, laser pointers don't work on screens, and I didn't know that until today, so you can't see. We start off maybe on track, maybe pretty close. We kind of veer. We might come back. We might not. We might just go, and then we're here, and we are not even close to where we were trying to get. I see tech people often deep dive into something, and then there are like 2 minutes left in the presentation or the meeting, and they're like, oh shoot, we kind of went off track there. We needed another meeting, or let me follow up with some more information, or whatever. And it's just, it's a waste of time. Like, think of the time and money that meetings take up and presentations take up, and it's a lot. It adds up things. So I think of the crocodile perspective, that you're on track, you might veer off. Maybe they ask a question that forces you to veer off for a second, but then you're coming back. Think of crocodile teeth, where you can see both sides of it, that you might go, and maybe the spectrum is like high level or high detail, low detail. Maybe it's off track, not on track, or whatever that is, but make sure you're getting back to it. Now, what is the caveat with this?
If the goal was wrong to begin with.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah. So maybe you went into that presentation, remember, clear back of understanding your audience and understanding their big picture. Maybe we thought we were going here, but really, in actuality, we needed to be right here, and that's okay. So that is the big caveat, that you can plan and prepare and think you know what you're going to present and what your end goal is for that presentation, but get back to it unless you really, really feel that based on whatever factors, you did need to actually veer off track of that goal. Does that make sense, the concept? Okay? And the crocodile approach of just off track, get back on, off track, get back on. And this is surprisingly difficult for tech people. Why?
They like to go into details.
They like to go into detail. They like to convey that they know the detail. And I don't know what it is with the thinking, but they'll start talking about something, and it makes them think of something else, and it makes them think of something else, and by the time you know it, they're just gone, and you're like, yeah, we need to get back on track here. And so if you are in a meeting where that's happening, what kind of phrases could you use to help get back on track?
It can even be that simple. We're kind of veering, let's get back to our goal.
There you go. I love it. Just clear, upfront, concise. And is that offensive?
Shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. Sometimes it is. It can be.
I love using the clock to get back on. Oh, we're running out of time.
That's great.
This much
Yeah.
time left.
Blame the
Let's
clock.
make sure.
Yep. Let's get so. And you can even compliment. Hey, great points. I love that context. Let's just jump back really fast and continue on. Yeah. Things like that. They might get offended, but hopefully they understand. Yes.
And also, I know PowerPoint tends to get a bad rap sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's also a good way to keep you on track.
It is.
They can't argue with the next slide.
It's there.
This is where we're at.
Yeah, I love that. And I would put a caveat on the use of, actually, I think I've got some bonus tips here that aren't technical, and I think one of them, I don't know, maybe not. But PowerPoint is excellent, but what have I not done with this PowerPoint slide deck?
You haven't had every word on there.
Ding, 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 ding. I am not sitting here like this reading this slide deck, and you see that all the time, especially with, and this is less technical than just everyone, that we tend to just gravitate. This is my safety. This is my safety net, and I want to be there because I'm familiar with it, and it helps calm the nerves of giving a presentation. And so I just stand there and I just read it, even if I hadn't intended to. But yes, yeah, great point. 30 seconds, we are out of time. Just some others. Don't practice the delivery. I know that's very, very controversial, but I've literally never practiced a presentation in my life because I feel that it makes you robotic and mechanical, and you're just regurgitating content instead of just being your natural loose self, giving a presentation and connecting with people. Familiarize yourself with the setting. When you go into a new place, any sort of setting, your brain is firing off tons and tons of neurons are just going crazy. So just walk into the room. Boom. I did that earlier today. I just walked in, peeked in each of the rooms that I was presenting in. Just, okay, I'm aware of it. My brain's not firing off, absorbing that setting. So familiarize yourself. Find your prime time. I'm not a morning person. I hate giving presentations in the morning. It's like mid-afternoon, 2 o'clock, perfect. So that's my prime time that I like. Your style, don't try to fit the mold. Like business school, I got an MBA in business management undergrad, and it was all about, like, I would have professors criticize hand movements, arms movements, like words per minute. Like we would get drilled to fit this exact mold, and I hate that. Like just blow it all away. You be you in whatever presentation setting you're giving that. Logos, ethos, pathos, we talked about a little bit. Logic, the connection side, and then long tail, short tail. Impact. I want the impact to be long. I want you to actually improve and do something with your lives differently because of this presentation. Handling mistakes. Just ignore them unless it's big and you need to correct. Use a whiteboard, digital or physical, very powerful. We're done. Thank you.